Okay, let's dive into a scenario that is, well, just plain disappointing. You've been saving a special bottle of wine. You're all excited. You hear that perfect pop of the cork. You pour a glass, and something is just terribly wrong. So today, we're going to put on our detective hats and solve the case of the corked wine. I mean, have you? It's such a specific and, frankly, awful smell. Maybe for you, it wasn't a wet dog. Maybe it was more like a damp, moldy basement or some wet cardboard left out in the rain. Whatever that scent is, it's your first big clue that you've just become the victim of a pretty notorious wine fault. All right, first things first, let's investigate the scene of the crime. What does it actually mean for a wine to be corked? Because, there's a lot of confusion around this. So let's get one thing straight right away. Finding little bits of cork floating around in your glass, super annoying for sure, but it does not mean the wine is corked. That's just, a physical mishap. Corked refers to something totally different, an invisible contamination, a specific chemical fault that has ruined the wine from the inside out. And this is so important to understand. This isn't about your personal taste or you just not liking the wine. A corked wine is objectively flawed. There is a verifiable chemical compound at play here, a real culprit that we can actually identify and blame for this whole mess. All right, it's time to unmask our villain. The compound that's responsible for ruining countless dinners and celebrations. It has a name, and it's a bit of a mouthful. Everybody, meet our prime suspect, 2,4,6-trichloroanisole. Yeah, let's just call it TCA for short. This is the molecule that causes what we call cork taint. So you see, it's not the wine's fault, and it's definitely not your fault. It's this tiny but incredibly potent chemical that has managed to infiltrate the bottle. And make no mistake, TCA is the absolute ringleader here. Well, yeah, other compounds can sometimes cause musty flavors. Study after study shows that TCA is the culprit in at least 80 to 85% of all cases. It is the usual suspect, and for a very, very good reason. Now, here's the really sneaky part about how TCA works. It doesn't just add a bad smell. Research shows it actually messes with your olfactory receptors. It's like a chemical blocker that literally mutes all the beautiful, fruity, and floral aromas the winemaker worked so hard to create. It just wipes them out, leaving you with that dull, musty impression. So how in the world does this microscopic menace commit its crime? Okay, let's move on to the forensics of it all. It's actually a fascinating little chain reaction. It all starts with microscopic fungi, which, just live naturally on the bark of cork trees. Now, when these fungi come into contact with certain chlorine compounds, which could be leftovers from old pesticides or even cleaning solutions, they trigger a defense mechanism. They basically eat those compounds and spit out TCA. And from there, it's a very short trip from the cork right into your wine. But wait, here's the plot twist. The cork isn't always the guilty party. TCA can actually contaminate other things in a winery. We're talking wooden barrels, rubber hoses, even the building's wooden beams. This is what's known as systemic TCA, where the contamination is just in the winery's environment. And that explains those rare, confusing cases where even wines with screw caps can be tainted. The damage was done before the wine ever even saw a cork. So just how widespread is this whole crime wave? Well, that really depends on who you ask. The cork industry's own group, APCOR, reports a taint rate of about 1%. But then you have independent tasters, like the folks at Wine Enthusiast, who find it closer to 5%. And a huge study back in 2005 by Wine Spectator put the number as high as 7%. So while the exact number is up for debate, it's pretty clear this is a real and persistent problem. Okay, we've identified the suspect and the motive. Now let's assemble your detective's toolkit so you can spot the evidence for yourself. This is the fun part. These right here are the classic calling cards of TCA. The ones you hear most are damp cardboard and wet dog, for sure, but also be on the lookout for a general moldy or musty basement smell. Basically, if all the wine's vibrant fruit aromas are just gone, and they've been replaced by any of these, you've found your culprit. So, how much TCA does it actually take to completely ruin a bottle of wine? The answer is, well, it's astonishingly small. Some people with really trained noses can detect TCA at concentrations as low as 1 to 2 parts per trillion. That's just how incredibly sensitive our noses are to this specific compound. And to put that into perspective, because parts per trillion is hard to imagine, check this out. That's the equivalent of a single teaspoon of water in 1,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. It is an almost unbelievably potent compound. Just wow. So you've gathered the evidence, you've done the sniff test, and you're sure you have a corked bottle on your hands. So what's the final verdict? What do you do? This is the big question, right? Is there some trick, some life hack to salvage the bottle and save the day? The answer, I'm sorry to say, is a simple and very resounding no. Now, you might see things online about using plastic wrap to absorb the TCA, and yeah, it can kind of work to a degree, but it also strips the wine of all its good flavor and aroma compounds too. You're just left with a ghost of the wine it was supposed to be. Okay, fine, you can't drink it, but surely you can use it for that coq au vin or maybe a beef bourguignon recipe, right? It's just going into a sauce. Again, it's going to be a hard no. TCA is a very stable compound. The heat from cooking won't break it down. Instead, that musty, moldy flavor will just transfer from the wine right into your food. And trust me, it will ruin the entire dish. So please, just don't do it. Here is the correct and only course of action. 1. Gently put the cork back in the bottle to preserve the evidence. And 2. Take it back to where you bought it. Any reputable wine shop or winery will gladly replace a corked bottle for you, no questions asked. It's a known fault, and for them, it's just part of the cost of doing business. But let's end on some good news, because there is good news. The wine industry has been fighting this problem for decades, and you know what? They're winning. Better cleaning processes and amazing quality control have dramatically reduced TCA levels. While the rates were once estimated as high as 9.5%, they're now way down in that 1 to 5% range. That's real, tangible progress. And all that progress leads us to our final, lingering question. With so many great alternatives out there now, screw caps, synthetic stoppers that don't carry the risk of TCA, are we seeing the beginning of the end for the traditional natural cork? It's a huge debate that pits centuries of tradition against modern science, and well, only time will tell who closes the case on that one.